Welcome back. What have you learned so far in the 2024 BBWA Award finalist show? We got 2 Yankees up for the same award and a Royal. Bobby Witt Jr., Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge, your finalists for AL Most Valuable Player. How about National League Manager of the Year? 3 managers in their first year, they make the cut. Carlos Mendoza, Pat Murphy, his first full season as a skipper, and Mike Schilt of the Padres. As for your Rookie of the Year on the American League side, Colton Cowser and a pair of Yankees, Luis Hill and the guy he threw to an awful lot. Yeah, that rookie catcher with the stash, Austin Wells. As for Manager of the Year on the American League side, all from the same division, A.J. Hinch, Matt Quatraro, and Stephen Vogt in his first year as a big league skipper with the Cleveland Guardians. Congrats to all of these guys. Let's throw it over to Tom Perducci for an Insiders Roundtable. Tom.
Hey, thanks, Greg. I'm with our insider, Joel Sherman, our resident GM, Steve Phillips. Steve, you've hired some managers back in the day. What strikes me so far with these finalists, 4 of our 6 finalists for Manager of the Year were hired at this time last winter. So we've heard for years with analytics, managers don't matter, push-button guys, right? Here's the numbers, go run a game. Maybe managers do matter. What do you make of this?
Well, it's interesting. As a general manager, I'd be patting myself on the back that I picked the right guy, right? I would make it about me. But think about this, the impact of these guys come in. Some of them have never managed before. Some of them have managed previously, had some experience to fall back upon, maybe did some things differently than the first time they've gone through it. But to be able to come in and their voice being heard, I think it's dramatic. I mean, we're never having managerial experience, maybe been in a clubhouse before, been around other managers, but to be able to go in and to impact a team. And for many of these teams, they may have struggled early and then turned around during the course of the season. This is dramatic what these guys have done this year. And I give them a ton of credit because there are veteran managers that didn't have nearly the same kind of impact.
A trend, Joel, you think?
I do, because one of the things we would have said at this time last year, Tom, is, oh, these are big shoes to fill, where some of these guys are going in. 4 of the top 24 winningest managers of all time left their job last year. Joe Espada wasn't an AL finalist. He replaced Dusty Baker. But, like, we have 3 guys here. You know, Buck Showalter left. Bob Melvin left. Terry Francona left. Their successors are all here. Craig Counsell got the largest contract in the history of managing, and his guy's here in Pat Murphy. So it does show there's big shoes, but if you get the right guy, they can be filled.
Yeah, communication, obviously huge. In a day where we have so much information, to me, it still comes down to communicating with your players. These guys were great at that. Let's talk about Rookie of the Year, because to me, it's always one of the fascinating votes, because you have pitchers and position players going up against one another. I'll start with you, Joel. You voted on this in the past. How do you make that determination of who had a better year when it's, let's face it, apples and oranges?
So look, Tom, I think if we, on almost every one of these discussions, I don't love the word narrative, but it's going to come up a lot. We always think of the Manager of the Year as certainly narrative. It's usually about who had a bad year and then suddenly had a good year. MVP, because we always argue about what the meaning of valuable is, narrative comes in. Did your team win? How much did you do to win? The other 2 awards are less that. And with Rookie of the Year, I do think narrative, especially in the National League, which feels like it's going to be a close race here, is part of this, because I'll say this. I was in Padre camp when it opened this year. They were going to Korea. They had 2 outfielders on their 40-man roster. 2 outfielders on their whole 40-man roster. If Jackson Merrill can't go from shortstop to center field, they're going to have a big problem. Should I not include that in narrative? And should I not include in narrative that it's never been harder to hit than it is now? And by the way, Jackson Merrill could hit. He could hit from the beginning in the way that more glorious Jacksons, Churio and Holiday, couldn't. And he hit from the beginning. Paul Skeens was historic. He feels like the most dominant rookie, but Jackson Merrill in some ways feels like the most valuable rookie. Does narrative get included in that conversation?
Well, I think the other narrative, you think about this, is Luis Hill became Garrett Cole.
Yes.
Garrett Cole was hurt, and he actually pitched like Garrett Cole early in the season for the Yankees when they needed that desperately. And then at some point, Austin Wells batted 4th in the Yankees lineup. And so when you think about the impact, the storyline for the New York Yankees, for the Pinstripes, then Colton Cowser, you have people wearing cow costumes in the outfield for them. The impact of on the team and on the field, but also the branding of it as well. All of that comes into play.
Can I just throw in one other thing? And look, Cowser would be a fine Rookie of the Year if it ends up to be him. But to your point, Cowser mainly batted 6th and 7th this year. At some point, he went to 1. to your point, Hill stepped in for the AL Cy Young winner and pitched like the AL Cy Young winner while he was gone. Does narrative matter that he filled that, or is just who was the best rookie?
I think narrative matters.
And Austin Wells drops into the number 4 spot behind Aaron Judge. That's asking a lot. I would say it matters, but I wouldn't go overboard on it. To me, especially the National League race, it's the 2 Jacksons and Paul Skeens, right? I think Skeens, we're talking about a historically great year. And I think with the other guys, we're talking about really, really good years. My other part of this, I want to get your take on this. Skeens was able to start the year in the minor leagues with, no pressure, limited pitch counts, bring you up in May. As you mentioned, Joel, the Padres were stuck. They took a shortstop, put him in center field from day 1 of the season. Does that matter that a rookie is there from day 1 all the way through?
Yeah, it's a tough call, right? And I think it comes down to impact versus length of performance, right? And so a guy like Paul Skeens, historic performance for a shorter period of time versus what Jackson Merrill did over the course of the season and making that position change pretty substantial. And look, a guy like Jackson Churio, too, slow start, and then he came on like gangbusters, carrying the Brewers offensively when Christian Yelich went down. So there's a story behind all of them. I think that it's like many other things. Impact matters if there's a different angle to it. And for the shorter performance, I think you have to be historic. And I think Skeens was pretty historic.
He was historic, but again, does narrative matter? If Shota Imanaga was born in Philadelphia, would he have been one of the 3 finalists here? Or does narrative play in where you feel like, oh, man, there's a lot of really good rookies. The fact that he's a little older and played at such a high league in Japan, do I leave him off my 3-person ballot? I do. We all try to act like it doesn't seep in, but it certainly seeps in.
But it's baseball writers voting, and don't baseball writers like narratives?
Yes. It's interesting because the players, when they voted on the Players' Choice Award, voted for Jackson Merrill Rookie of the Year. I think you're right. The writers will lean more towards history with Skeens. We'll see. Speaking of history, we got 2 obvious front-runner MVP candidates, Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. Joel, how much does history matter when you're voting on the MVP award? And are we talking really historic seasons in both cases?
I do think history matters. So the first place history matters when I thought about these seasons was Shohei Ohtani guaranteed the Hall of Fame this year, right? Like, it feels like he's going to get a 3rd MVP. That feels like an over-the-top thing. Does a 3rd 50-homer season for Judge and probably a 2nd MVP do that? The other one, though, is I do think an historic season is why Ohtani is going to probably win the NL MVP over Francisco Lindor, right? Because we're going to ask the DH everyday player thing. The 50-50 thing is probably going to carry the day, whereas we know when he pitched, he didn't steal bases like this. So if he was playing center field or right field or first base, would he have stolen bases like this? If Francisco Lindor was a DH all year, would he have stolen 45 bases and had 35, 40 homers? So I think the history is going to get Ohtani unanimous, would be my guess. But I watch Lindor play almost every day. I don't know how you could be more valuable than
playing shortstop at a premier level.
At a high level.
Think about that. 150 pitches a game. You got to be locked in. Where the other guys
and
at the 160
dugout
working on his next AB.
But you can make a case that Ohtani's season is one of the greatest ever in the history of baseball. We're talking 50-50, 54 home runs. Look, Judge hit 58. Ohtani hit 54 home runs and stole 59 bases. And Judge, his OPS plus is the greatest ever for a right-handed hitter, right? He slugged over 700. I think Bonds did it back in 2003, 2004. And then before that was Larry Walker. If you're going to discount Bonds' performance because of ties to PEDs, Larry Walker did it in 99. He slugged 700, did Judge, 223 OPS plus. And then you're looking at Ohtani. I mean, honestly, you could make an argument that Ohtani's season was better than Judge's season when you factor in the stolen base numbers. And so I think both of them, historic, you make a case, the 2 best offensive seasons ever in the history of the game.
Wow. Can I ask our resident GM a question?
Yes.
If you knew everything about Ohtani's season that he just did, and you knew everything about Lindor's season, and you didn't know anything else you were putting on your roster.
Right.
And starting a team for the 2024 season, you already know what they are. Would you take what Ohtani did or what Lindor did?
So, well, I mean, there's a lot of it depends. Like, what else is my option at shortstop?
No, you don't know anything else.
I don't know anything else.
You can have that guy play every day.
I'm taking Ohtani.
Yeah.
I'm taking Ohtani.
But I think it's a tougher question.
It's a great question.
Because I think what Lindor does is invaluable. if I also want to include what he does in the clubhouse as the spokesman for the team, whereas I know I'm not getting that from Ohtani, I just feel like I think Ohtani's the MVP. It's so historic.
Yeah.
But the fact that he never steps foot in a field, and I watch Lindor save runs every day doing that, it's hard.
Taking Ohtani, it's always a good decision.
Yeah,
can't go wrong with that.
Can't go wrong with it.
Speaking of decisions, how about the American League Cy Young Award race? Well, you know Tarek Skubal is going to be on this list. But is it possible that we actually have a relief pitcher among our finalists for the Cy Young Award? We'll answer that question after this.
Here are your finalists for National League Most Valuable Player, Francisco Lindor. What an incredible run since May 18th. At 108 games, he had 304, 26 home runs. Before that, was hitting under 200. Francisco Lindor in the leadoff spot became one of the best players, not just in the National League, but in all of baseball. Our second finalist for NL MVP, Shohei Ohtani. He'd be the first DH to win an MVP award, not counting the two-way seasons. He'd be the second player in Major League Baseball history to win an MVP in the American League and National League, joining Frank Robinson, who did it in 61, and then the AL in 66. Fewest games played by a position player, 0 as well, to win an MVP. Previously was Don Baylor with 97 in 1979. And our third finalist for NL MVP, Ketel Marte. He was second in the league in slugging, OPS plus, fourth in home runs with 36, the mainstay star for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's see how their numbers stack up side by side by side. Francisco Lindor, the average doesn't stand out, but he is the captain of this team, the field general at shortstop, terrific defender and base runner. Ketel Marte, you can say the same thing for him, but Shohei Ohtani, without playing a single game in the field, who cares? He keeps rewriting the rules, the unwritten rules of baseball. I don't know if a guy can be a starting pitcher and also be a full-time DH. He proved us wrong there. I don't know if a slugger that hits 50 home runs would ever be able to steal over 50 bases. He did that as well. He is in his own category now.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of one, and there's a million ways to define that. But I've got a favorite I want to show you, okay? Because it reminds me of something maybe Babe Ruth would have done. Come with me and I'll show you. Home runs of more than 450 feet. Check this out. Shohei Ohtani has more than every team that does not play at altitude. Yeah, he's got more than Judge, Stanton, and Soto combined. How does he do it? Let's look into the fact of how Shohei Ohtani is the long drive champion of Major League Baseball. Because when you go to a Dodgers game, folks, it doesn't matter where you're sitting, bring your baseball glove. Yeah, even if you're sitting all the way up there, you might get a baseball hit by Shohei Ohtani, 461. That's not even his best bolt. Shohei Ohtani, watch outfielders here. They start out thinking they've got a beat on the baseball. What does that tell you? It tells you he has so much backspin, that ball just keeps carrying and carrying and carrying. There's nobody in baseball who can have the backspin like Shohei Ohtani does, to have this much carry. 473. You want to see his best bolt? Yeah, it happened in Colorado. I don't care. This is in the air a very long time, into the forest in Colorado. How does he do it? I think the key to Shohei Ohtani is the fastest hips in baseball. If we look over here, you see when his loads, his front hip actually turns away from the baseball, then it starts to spin away. And there's so much force coming to his front side that front foot comes off the ground where he's on his heel and he finishes high. Think about extension. Most power hitters think about that bottom hand. He uses two hands for extension like another lefty who hits the ball a mile. Yeah, Phil Mickelson. That's right. I used a golfer as my comp for Shohei Ohtani because what he's doing is it looks like he's hitting Titleists, not baseball. There's nobody like Shohei Ohtani. When he's hitting more home runs than teams at 450 feet, he's the unicorn.
I almost feel like he wants to go 60-60. Like, that's his next goal.
What's next, right?
I mean, yeah, it's how special he is. When you talk about the old school, the non-Ohtani way of looking at the MVP, Francisco Lindor in a normal season in the National League is by far the most immensely valuable player you could have.
Well, think about it this way. His first 44 games were forgettable, goes in the leadoff spot, and the last 108 games, and I'm going to say it, he was the most valuable player in the National League. He was the most important player on a team that in April and part of May was one of the worst teams in baseball, and they ended up being one of the best teams in baseball through August and June. And early on, it was very simple. It was having a hard time swinging at balls in the strike zone, a lot of chase in his game. He's had a couple of starts like that already for the Mets. But once the season got started, once he got in that leadoff spot on May 18th, he took off. There was a relaxed feeling to what he was doing. I felt the first couple of years there was a lot of in pressure that he put on himself to be great. The elite defense, plus 16 on outs above average. Just an athleticism that you have not seen in a long time. His ability to go to his right, go to his left. He's got some style, some flavor to the way he does it. And by the end of the year, every single time the Mets need a big hit, this one was with a no-hitter on the line, he got it. The big hit in Atlanta, and then against Philadelphia. It reminds me of the Dalai Lama. It wasn't an MVP season. It was a spiritual journey. Because even when he hit those home runs, you see him go around the bases when guys are throwing their bats and branding themselves. He was just at peace and at calm because he knew he'd finally made it as a Met.
One of my favorite things to watch when you go watch a game at Citi Field, he doesn't come off the field until he high-fives every one of his teammates that run in. He is true leader of this team. As for Ketel Marte, Tom, he was amazing in the 2023 postseason. He literally carried October from last year into the regular season.
Yeah, I was talking to Torey Lovullo. He talked about how last year Ketel was really upset he didn't make the All-Star team. Really upset. And he came to camp this year with the goal of making sure there's no way they can keep me off the team. Well, now he's not just an All-Star. He's an MVP finalist.
That's a big deal.
I mean, a great defender who slugs as well. I mean, from start to finish, the best player on that Diamondbacks team. Just an impressive year.
I remember being in Seattle, in Arizona for us, Seattle Mariners spring training camp, and Robbie Cano goes, hey, there's a kid playing shortstop for us. He's a rookie. That skinny kid over there, that's the best shortstop I ever played with. I was like, wait, what? Whoa, I know other shortstops you played with. He's like, that guy's going to be the best I ever played with. Ketel Marte has grown into a man. Now, a finalist for National League MVP. One of those finalists, not Ketel Marte, is going to join us after the break. I'm going to give you a couple hints. He's a switch hitter. He's got a great smile. Matter of fact, can we see that smile at all? Yeah, he's standing by. Show us that smile, Francisco. There you are. Francisco Lindor joins us after the break. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, you heard those chants at Citi Field all season long. MVP, MVP. And it might become a reality. In a previous segment, we learned Francisco Lindor is a finalist for National League Most Valuable Player, and you see why. Playing the important position of shortstop, the leader of the Mets had these gaudy offensive numbers, and Francisco Lindor kind of to join us now on MLB Network. Francisco, congratulations on a remarkable 2024 season. Good to see you, my friend. I got to wonder, like, are we making too much of this whole leadoff spot thing? I mean, is it just like a psychological thing? It's just a coincidence? Because once you went to that spot, you were arguably the best player in baseball, Francisco.
I think it might be a little bit of both. I mean, it might be a little bit of coincidence, and it might be a little bit of feeling comfortable as well. I feel very comfortable in the little spot. I love getting the team going. I love creating momentum for our team. So that might have something to do with it, and coincidence as well. You know how baseball is. All of a sudden you put something clicks and you take off.
You know, Francisco, I was just thinking, I had the honor of watching these games from the booth, and every single night, you just knew you were going to do something defensively or offensively to change the outcome of the game. Did you feel that at some point, that you just had this inner confidence that this year was the year, whenever I needed to do it, I got it done?
We had a special year, so it felt like anybody at any given moment, we were going to do something special. And there was a lot of moments that towards the end of the game, a lot of things line it up towards I'm coming up with either people on base or I get to start the game with, a base hit, still a base or a double. And it was just like everything was aligning the way everybody wanted to align. And I did feel very comfortable. I felt like I was in a good spot, believing in myself. And also, it felt easy to play when you know the guys behind you can get it done as well.
Francisco, can we talk defense? Because I know that's close to your heart, right?
Yeah, please.
You're up against the guy, main competition, a designated hitter. Talk to me about, to a MVP voter, what it means to be a true two-way player going out there and playing both sides of the ball for 3 hours and 150 pitches every night.
Yeah, well, I love taking hits away. I love whenever I always have the conversation with pitchers when they're working as hard as they can to get the guy out. And whenever they execute the pitch, I just love finishing the plate for them. I love whether it's just a routine ground ball, a diving play, and just getting the guy out and having them feel comfortable and confident enough to throw whatever pitch at any given time. If the ball is hit down in the ground, we're going to make the play. I'm going to make the plays.
We have to talk about how you finished the season, because there was a point there in September we weren't sure, the Mets weren't sure whether you're going to be back on the field with that back injury. And when you did come back, man, you were in the middle of everything. The Mets are not in the postseason without you, especially the home run in Atlanta. Talk to me about what it took for you physically to get back and how much you enjoyed being in those spots at the end of the season.
The trainers did an outstanding job of making sure we're ready to go out and compete. You know, they understood the assignment. They knew we were getting closer to crunch time, but they also knew that if we made it to the postseason, I couldn't be as beat up, you know. So that they gave me some days to find ways to recover and to get me stronger. And yeah, it took me a little longer every single day to go out and play the game, but every time I came in, I felt confident that the trainers had the right stuff for me that day. And there was a couple of days in my mind that I'm like, man, am I going to play this year, or am I not going to play again this year?
Finally, Francisco, what does it mean to you to be a finalist for the National League Most Valuable Player of the Year award?
It's special. It's an honor to be in this position. I thank the Lord for it. I thank my teammates and coaches. You know, I had a lot of conversations throughout the year with coaches and players to get better, to find ways to be in the playoffs, because it's all about winning. We're trying to play winning baseball the whole entire year, and it leads to things like this, to moments like the one I'm having today, where I'm a finalist for MVP. You know, it's you can only dream of winning an MVP, and I'm honored, I'm blessed to be in this position, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we're honored to watch you play every single day. You are a star. Francisco Lindor, congratulations on being a finalist. Best of luck, okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you have him, the face of the New York Mets, Francisco Lindor. When we come back, we're going to put a bow on this 2-hour extravaganza.
2024年の BBWAR は度が近づく中、今シーズンの選手や監督たちの活躍を振り返ると、改めてその熱い戦いと感動的な瞬間の数々に胸が躍りますね。アーロン・ジャッジ、フアン・ソト、そしてボビー・ウィット・ジュニアといった選手たちがアメリカンリーグの MVP 候補として名前を連ねています。それぞれが異なる背景を持ちながらも、この1年で輝かしい成果を残したことは間違いありません。アーロン・ジャッジはヤンキースでのリーダーシップを発揮し、圧倒的なホームラン記録を打ち立て、攻守両面でチームを牽引しました。一方、フアン・ソトはその卓越した打撃技術だけでなく、守備でもその存在感を見せつけました。そして、ボビー・ウィット・ジュニアのような若手選手が短期間で驚異的な成長を遂げた姿は、多くのファンに希望と興奮を与えました。これらの選手たちの活躍は、MVP レースをさらに白熱させる要因となっています。また、監督賞の候補も、非常に興味深い顔ぶれです。スティーブン・ボート、カルロス・メンドーザ、そしてマット・クワトラロといった新任監督たちが、それぞれのチームを再建し、大きな成功を収めました。 特にスティーブン・ボートは、クリーブランド・ガーディアンズの指揮を執り、初年度ながらチームを強化し、ファンに新たな希望をもたらしました。これらの監督たちが見せたリーダーシップは、選手との強い信頼関係を築くことの重要性を示しています。近年ではデータ解析が重視され、監督の役割が軽視されることもありましたが、彼らの活躍は、監督の存在がいかに重要かを改めて証明したと言えるでしょう。新人賞の争いも見逃せません。今年は特に多くの話題を提供してくれる若手選手が登場しました。ポール・スキーンスは短期間ながら歴史的なパフォーマンスを見せ、記録的な活躍でファンを驚かせました。一方、ジャクソン・メリルはシーズンを通して安定したプレーを見せ、守備から攻撃まで多方面でチームに貢献しました。また、ヤンキースのルイス・ヒールとオースティン・ウェルズも重要な場面でチームを救う活躍を見せました。特にウェルズは、ジャッジの後ろで打席に立ちながらもプレッシャーに負けず、その若さとエネルギーでチームを支えました。このような新人たちの登場は、MLB に新たな風を吹き込み、次世代のスター誕生を期待させるものでした。そして、忘れてはならないのが、翔平・大谷のシーズンです。彼のパフォーマンスは、まさにユニコーンと呼ばれるにふさわしく、50本以上のホームランを打ちながら、50個以上の盗塁を記録するという偉業を達成しました。大谷の活躍は、MLB の歴史に新たなページを刻むものであり、彼が他の選手たちとは一線を画す存在であることを改めて示しています。一方で、フランシスコ・リンドールのような選手も非常に特別です。彼は守備と攻撃の両面でチームに多大な影響を与え、そのリーダーシップと試合を変える能力は MVP にふさわしいと多くの声が上がっています。リンドールは特に今シーズン、ヤンキースの中心選手として常にチームを支えました。シーズン中の怪我を乗り越え、試合の重要な場面で何度も決定的な役割を果たしました。彼がフィールドに戻ってきた瞬間、チーム全体の士気が高まり、彼の存在感の大きさを改めて感じさせられました。守備でも攻撃でも試合の流れを変えるプレーを見せるリンドールは、まさにMVP にふさわしい選手の一人です。2024年シーズンを振り返ると、多くのドラマチックな瞬間がありましたが、皆さんはどの選手や監督が一番印象に残っていますか？また、今年の MVP や新人賞、監督賞についての予想や意見もぜひ教えてください。お気に入りの瞬間や選手についてのコメントをお待ちしています。そして、いいねとチャンネル登録もお忘れなく。最新の MLB ニュースや分析をお届けしますので、これからも一緒に MLB の魅力を楽しんでいきましょう。